Good morning, everybody. Uh-oh. I'm hearing something in my ear. Good morning, everybody. That was not exactly the smoothest beginning to this morning, but you're here, and good morning to all of you. I hope you all had an amazing week, and it was pure chaos on my end. I apologize for the glasses. That's usually an indicator I'm working on the book, and I'm doing a ton of reading and editing and meeting with my editor actually in less than an hour. So this has got to be concise and no BS and no rambling and all that sort of stuff. I hope you all had an amazing week. I'm sorry I couldn't be here more frequently as I plan to, as I want to, but there's just too many things going on all at once, and I had a couple of meetings that conflicted and had to get out of Dodge and go down to the US and do a little bit of work. So here we are, but we're all here together for the best morning of, at the very least, of your day, hopefully your weekend, and good morning, Robin, and hopefully the week or longer, and if not, we'll try to do better again tomorrow, because I think we're gonna do one of these again tomorrow. And I'm struggling with the consistency again because of my schedule. I'm gonna do my best, and because there's a lot of stuff we need to get through, and over the next several months, and this will be the best venue for it. So whoever's watching, thank you. Join, throw your comments in the live chat. I want to hear from you, and this is, once again, your Freedom Coffee. And this is the time where we all celebrate the freedoms that we have, and we work on expanding our freedoms for the future. And that's very important because, you know, everybody discusses, you know, philosophically and politically that you only have freedom if you protect it. But I don't believe that protection necessarily means aggression and using, you know, getting out in the streets and having, I don't know, a trucking convoy. I mean, that's a part of it. That's when you get to, you know, the end of your rope sort of thing. But I think we can do this ongoing, and we do this with this whole positive vibe and talking about things and dealing with issues and all that sort of stuff. So thank you for all being here. I love all of you guys. Just if you can, share, like, subscribe, all the usual stuff with this. And yeah, and the other thing is Getter now has private messaging, as does Twitter, you know, all that sort of stuff. So follow me on Twitter, Getter. I also do have a Minds account, which I don't use all that much, but I'm going to try to start using it more. I've also caved and you installed Facebook on my phone. I don't know how much longer that's going to last because I really hate Facebook. But thank you, everybody who's been following me. I did have an account before with, I don't know, a few thousand people it's connected to. And then some weasel named Unique O'Toole and his staff basically brigaded me when he became leader. And I started calling him out on his, what's the word? Bullshit. And he didn't like that, so, you know, the cult around him just brigaded me, mass flagged my account and got me deleted, which is where I was going anywhere, to be entirely honest. I was barely using it. I was basically using it to control Aaron O'Toole. Sorry, Unique. So anyways, that's my history with Facebook. I don't know if I'll be there much longer, but that's why I suggest everybody join this camera, which is locals. So honkingforfreedom.locals.com. I have an account for myself as well on there that I manage it. And please feel free to throw in whatever comments and questions you have. I know there's some issues that I've been trying to work out with the locals stream. I'm trying to find a splitter for my mic. And I need a splitter, not a traditional RCA aux splitter, but I need a splitter that's USB to 2 USB to 1, one USB into 2 outputs. And I went on Amazon, I went online, I went on eBay, couldn't find specifically what I was looking for, and I ran out of time because I got a book I got to edit and help write and be a part of. So things are a little bit busy. But I will, to everybody on Locals, I promise you, you're not wasting your time. This will become more of a focus over time, and the sound quality will be stellar. It'll be the best sound quality you've ever heard. But the content, I hope, will be good enough in the interim. So thank you all for being here this morning. It's a beautiful day. Everything is awesome. My week, although it was completely chaotic, I kind of like that. I like to be busy. And it was an amazing week. The weather was great the entire time. I hope all of you felt the exact same way, because that's the reality of life around us. Not everything in life is politics and chaos. And yeah, I had a great week. I hope the rest of you did. One more thing, just want to mention tomorrow night. So tomorrow I'm going to do a Twitter space. Some of you may know I've been doing Twitter spaces periodically while I was in Florida speaking at the Bitcoin conference, and then when I went to South America, I've been doing them as much as I can. Honking for Freedom. And the Twitter space tomorrow should be interesting because I did get to know a bunch of truckers from the U.S. through the Freedom Convoy and the media stuff, and beyond the, when you're down there and you're out of sight and you talk to people and you meet them, sort of thing. One of them penned an article, Gord, who I've been talking to for a long time. Good guy. He's the real deal trucker, and Gord penned an article that was published in Newsweek this week. I'm gonna put it in the description when this is all done, so you can all read it. Very insightful, really bright guy. So I'm going to bring him and a couple other truckers that were, one for sure that was affiliated with Brian and the Freedom Convoy in the United States. And I want to talk specifically about what we're seeing in the economy, because when you're on the sort of ground level as a trucker, when you go to your different job sites, and if you understand basic economics, you can see there is a massive economic slowdown. And I just want to get their opinions of it, see if they're experiencing the same thing, because we all, truck in different areas. And I know, at least in my sector, which would probably be closely tied to retail, there is a massive slowdown. But I'm just interested to see if they're going through the same thing. And I think that would be a great discussion. And for all of you who know nothing about truckers, trucking, what's going on behind the scenes, that'll be the opportunity to reach out and talk to people and get a sense of what's going on down there. Because at the end of the day, whether you're Canada, the United States, we're all we have cultural differences, but we have so many similarities, not just our economic similarities. And I'd like to see more of a coming together of this if we can. I mean, that's the whole Freedom Convoy was about. And a couple of them drove up to Ottawa, and they're just amazing group of guys. So that's the Twitter space tomorrow night at, I think I set it for 8 o'clock if I'm not mistaken. So just follow me on Twitter, BJdichter.twitter, blah, 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 and you'll see I'll pin that to my thing so you can join it. Last time I did a stream, we talked a little bit about TikTok and my frustration with TikTok during the Freedom Convoy. Now, TikTok is it's CCP, I mean Chinese, but it's Chinese CCP, Communist Party, Chinese Communist Party propaganda, or People's Liberation Army, what do you want to call it? It's a cyber weapon, and maybe I look at it differently because I grew up with computers. I've had a computer since I was 3 years old. I'm a little bit of a computer techie to some degree. And it's very evident what's happening. The fact that the content in China versus in North America is entirely different. In China, it's all do-it-yourself, betterment in the home, kind of that, self-motivation stuff. What Jordan Peterson has been doing a lot of. Jordan Peterson, Stephen Hicks Economically, a number of other people have been doing. That's what you see when you go on TikTok in China. But TikTok here is all degeneracy and social division and trying to cause race wars and all that sort of nonsense. And they're also doing that utilizing these algorithms that poison your children. that get them highly addicted. Did you know, apparently there's a study that was done on TikTok fairly recently that somebody who is a teenager, young adult, whatever you want to call it, could never have used TikTok and become addicted within 1 hour. Like crack level addicted. Like they can't live without it, sort of thing. Because younger people are more susceptible to this sort of thing. So pair that with the fact that it's all, degenerate. Well, not all, but a lot of it is just the politicized stuff is degenerate messaging to poison your children. Why aren't we seeing that as a weapon? Like maybe as a society we have to redefine what a weapon is. A weapon is not necessarily something you have a trigger, you pull it, go bang. That's one form of weapon. That's very analog. But we're in this new era of digital weapons, and is that what TikTok is? I don't know. So it was revealed this week, while I was in the truck actually, I was listening to this, that TikTok, not only is it spyware and poisons your children and intermingles political degenerate messaging, but TikTok records, think about this, this is from the technical perspective, it records every keystroke in your phone. So think about that. Every time you touch a letter or number in your phone, TikTok records that and downloads it to a central server. So you're typing in a phone number, you're sending a message, an SMS to your significant other or your parents, or you're typing in keystrokes for your password to get into your banking. TikTok records every single keystroke. I think that might be a problem. I don't know. Maybe I'm too I'm too skeptical. But I mean, what would it take as a thought exercise? What would it take people to understand the dangers of TikTok to them? Like, what do you think? The TikTok bank robber is going to come and steal all their money from their bank account. Okay, well, let's assume that happens. What are they going to do? They're going to go to the bank to complain. Or they're going to go to the government to complain about the bank, that their money's missing or whatever. How about, this is where we get into that whole, murky area of personal responsibility. And this is why I want people to know what TikTok is and how dangerous it is and why. Like, I don't want to be in the same time zone as somebody using TikTok. I mean, it's just me. I think that's something we need to, we really need to get that message out to as many people as possible. Every keystroke is recorded. That is a problem. We've been speaking about an ongoing issue, and I'm going to talk about, we'll get more and more in depth into this issue over time. And that is the sabotage of the Freedom Convoy and who or what or which entities sabotage the Freedom Convoy. And I was thinking of something. Does it have to be a large organization? Can it be one individual? Does it have to be an individual of prominence? And just in an institution in general, right? The Freedom Convoy became, you had to see what was happening at the hotels and how many people were on the ground volunteering, trying to liaise with road captains and trucks and people at the hotel. Like it was monstrous. It was huge. It's unbelievable. So it became a very large entity very quickly. But I'm thinking there's people who were they played minor roles in the Freedom Convoy. Some of us played major roles, some of us played minor roles. That's just the way it is. And I was just thinking, like, what could somebody who plays a minor role in an institution, could that person completely sabotage and destroy the organization from within, or at least cause it significant damage? Is that possible? And I'm trying to think of some examples that precedent in the world. But think about it. You have a very large, whether it's, forget the Freedom Convoy, but large institution apparatus that all sorts of people are part of, and some person who's like has a minimal role, could they inflict enough damage in it? And so, has anybody heard of Edward Snowden? You heard of him? Did Edward Snowden inflict damage in the U.S. Military? I mean, here's a perfect example of somebody not only played a minor role, he wasn't even employed by the U.S. military. He was a subcontractor, right? And as a subcontractor, I think we would all agree, at least in the political landscape, he brought the U.S. military to an absolute halt for several years, and which is why he's in Russia. And I don't want to get into the efficacy of, what he did correct or not. That's not the whole point. It's just the point is that's somebody in a minor role in a very large institution who caused some damage. Right? Is that possible? In the United States, in the 70s, there was a journalist by the name of Daniel Ellsberg who covered something called Watergate. And so here's another, this is, somebody in a minor role. They're not even part of the government. That's why I say they're a minor role. Yeah, he was a well-known journalist, I get it. But did that minor role have a negative effect on the U.S. administration, particularly the Nixon administration? And I think history would show that he did. So, I mean, these are just two examples. There's many others. They used to be called, in some cases, depending on what the circumstances are, they can be whistleblowers. And sometimes there are other cases where there are people who are entities, like we see in espionage, there are people who are working for intelligence agencies all over the world that are infested in all sorts of institutions, right? I'm sure you'll see that in social media, for example, in social media companies. I mean, why do you think some of the stupid messaging and rules and regulations are coming from it? Because there's people who have affiliations with foreign governments. We see that here. Like, for example, the Chinese are not going to like this. The CCP Chinese, by the way. When there's a very well-known artist in China named Ai Weiwei, who's no longer in China. He had to leave. And he became very famous because he protested much of the incompetence of the CCP, which, by the way, we all get this impression that China is a well-oiled machine and whatever. It's the biggest hot mess of any country in the world. Nothing works there. People in the regions don't care what the centralized party says, and it's all corruption from the top all the way down. Everybody's taking money, bribing everybody. Like, China is anything but a well-oiled machine. It's a disaster. But Ai Weiwei had an art installation in the Art Gallery of Ontario a few years ago. And did you know that they had people affiliated with the CCP and the PLA monitoring Chinese and Asian people who were attending the AGO? That this was occurring in Canada, that they were spying on people from Asian communities, particularly Chinese or Taiwanese. And they were spying on them, and people were getting death threats. People were getting messages on their phone, don't go to the AGO. Like, did you know that? Like, so that happens all over the world, right? We're spoiled in the Western world because we have this, it's fledgling, but I think we'll fix it, democracy, where the institutions and the bureaucracy overpower one individual or one party. Although one would argue the government in power in Canada is trying to change that and follow the Chinese model. But so I wouldn't be surprised at all if you saw any of this occurring in any of the social media companies, right? So any organization, institution, protest movement, whatever, is susceptible not only from external interference, but internal interference. And people who would, quote, align with the movement, but be there to destroy it and disrupt it, right? And that's not a new phenomenon. That is something that's occurred for a long time. Robin O, I'm reading a book about the CCP right now and their surveillance programs. of Chinese people overseas, even here in Canada. Yeah, and here in Canada, it's extensive. The Pakistani government does the same thing. I have despite claims from the fake news media, I do have friends who are Pakistani and who've explained to me what goes on in type of surveillance. Now, luckily, Pakistan is, how did Donald Trump describe it? Yeah, it's a borderline failed state. So they don't have any money to do mass surveillance of everybody. So they just focus on the Pakistani community, right? So this is a serious problem. This is also part of the reason when when Prime Minister Harper was in power in Canada, he closed the Iranian embassy because the Iranian embassy was being used to monitor Iranian dissidents in Canada and to threaten them and to, set up businesses and compete with people. Like it's really quite extensive what goes on here. It's part of the risk of having a free society. So, freedom is important, but we also have to be aware that it allows some of the bad dogs in. Next, I wanted to talk about just a little aside thing, just for everybody who's watching this, because I want to. Firstly, I love all of you guys who've been watching this. Everybody, all of you, and I'm also very proud to say, I keep saying guys, right? In Spanish, you do that. You do masculine. It's both masculine and feminine in large groups. I'm very proud to say, according to the first statistics since I started this channel, that 48% of all of you who watch this stream, whether live or after the fact, 48% are women. So Justin Blackface Trudeau, there's your gender parity. You know what the solution is? Just don't be a dick. That's it. Just be good and just be open, just be positive. And guess what? You'll have people from across the gender spectrum supporting you. You don't have to, arbitrarily put things into play. Good morning, Sonia. Thank you for coming. I'm glad to see you here. You're the best. So a little tip for watching this stream, because I've had some people make some comments. I've had people sending me videos telling me I'm a Sigma male, whatever that is. But thank you. I guess that's a compliment. So my little tip, I don't know if you've noticed something. Sometimes there are things that I know you think I should be talking about, or you think it would be obvious that I would be talking about something specific related to many of the issues we've discussed that might be in the mainstream news, the fake news, or even in alternative media, and I don't talk about it. And I've had some people ask me, say, why don't you talk about X? And this is my tip. When you're watching me here and you're wondering, why isn't he talking about X? That's on purpose. It's a technique. There's a reason for that. So when you're watching the stream, my tip is, don't only pay attention to what I am saying, because this is all of us to be together, to have this positive vibe and this positive energy and talk about stuff and get away from all the nonsense and talk about the nonsense in a joking way. However, sometimes there's more value in what I'm not talking about and why I'm not talking about it. And I will, unfortunately what it does, it creates these open loops, and these open loops tend to be highly addictive for human beings. I will work towards closing some of those loops as y'all discover them. Y'all, I can tell you, I was just in the United States. But just be aware of that. Just because I'm not talking about something doesn't mean I'm not aware of it. That might be your indicator and warning that I'm not talking about something for a reason. So, K9, a male, oh my gosh, they know what a man is. Yeah, good point. It's very funny when you look at the analytics on, oh God, this is going to look like a can of worms, but when you look at the analytics on YouTube, there's only two genders. There's male and female. It's almost as though we're a sexually bimorphic species. It's crazy, right? Where's the rest of them? I think we should put a petition into Google that we demand that all, I think we're up to 76 genders, that all of them are covered. And we should start a change.org petition demanding that. And you know why? Because strict enforcement of stupid rules is the greatest form of protest. That's my tip for today. So into, just doubling back to that Freedom Convoy sabotage, going to have to make it short soon, guys, because I got to run for coffee. Ladies and gentlemen, and you lovely ladies and gentlemen, and I know what a woman is, by the way. We discussed, okay, who benefited from the Freedom Convoy being crushed or sabotaged, if it were, beyond Justin Trudeau and the federal communist government of Canada. We know that. That's an obvious, but who else, right? And one of the names that has come up repeatedly over and over again is Doug Ford, right? He managed to get reelected. He managed to post 100% of the blame on Justin Trudeau. And despite the fact that this all occurred in Doug Ford's jurisdiction, that the OPP is under Doug Ford's jurisdiction, and that's who was doing a lot of this. Like when I had to hobble on my crutches on the ice and snow for 4 blocks because the cops wouldn't let a car, drive me, or any sort of cart drive me up to the stage. Well, so much for March of Dimes, eh? But it was OPP police that were blockading those streets, forcing me to go on crutches. And I do have a video that Salman showed me of when they one of the times when they carried me, which so embarrassing. Anyways, so it was Doug Ford's jurisdiction. Doug Ford got out of this, he weaseled his way out of this unscathed, despite the fact that 39 trucking companies lost their license, their Ontario license. So much for open for business, right? And that's provincial. It's not federal. That is provincial. So I don't know. Did Doug Ford have anybody affiliated or associated on the inside that was working to sabotage the Freedom Convoy? I don't know. But who else besides Doug Ford benefited from crushing the Freedom Convoy? Besides Justin Trudeau and Doug Ford, what other political figure was desperate at that moment to get rid of the Freedom Convoy and the protests, and who would have benefited greatly for it ending prematurely, which is what happened, right? We were just having a party, and then a whole bunch of stuff changed, which is in the book. By the way, the book is awesome. I hope you liked the last Substack. That was a rejected chapter, and when you see the rest of the book, you'll understand why. But who else really benefited? Think about it. Somebody that was in political power at that time that needed the convoy and all the protests to stop. Do you know who? That's right, Jason Kenney. Because Jason Kenney was dealing with the same sort of thing on the Quds border, right? Remember, the Quds border was closed down the same way the Ambassador Bridge was closed down. So the Ambassador Bridge was closed down, and Doug Ford lost his shit and went from, hey, I'm working class to crush the working class and middle class. And Jason Kenney was dealing with the Quds border, and he desperately needed the Quds border to blockade to end because his political career was hanging by a thread, and ultimately it didn't save him, did it? But could it be somebody affiliated with Jason Kenney? And again, this is all just speculation. It could be completely wrong. I could be in the complete opposite direction of what actually happened, right? This is just a thought exercise. interesting to think about it, because I think we do get sucked in a little too much into the us versus them, left versus right sort of bubble frequently. And again, we know Prime Minister Blackface, the most racist person to hold office in Canadian history, has got to go. The whole world knows that, and he will go. He'll be gone. That's fine. But we also got to get away from the sort of binary that life is just about good guys and bad guys. Sometimes there's all good guys, sometimes it's all bad guys, and often it's a mix of all those things together. So I don't know, just something to think about. Okay, I'm going to a couple of comments, questions, and then I'm going to get out of here. But I think we'll be here tomorrow. And then tomorrow night, remember Twitter Spaces with Gord and a couple other truckers and probably some Bitcoiners and probably everybody else who's been joining my spaces and following. And by the way, it's not politically partisan. My co-host, Dave, he's a PPC guy. And I'm I don't know, I think all parties suck guy. But, you know, we all respect each other's choices and opinions, and we don't admonish each other for making decisions because we all make decisions for different reasons, which is also, when you do that, that's how you become positive, right? When you're not, like, putting everybody into a corner and saying, oh, you're voting this because, like, you don't know. You're not reading people's minds. Just let them be. Like, okay, I disagree. This is why. You disagree. Okay, well, now we're starting to disagree, so we don't need more disagreement. We've set our piece, and let's move forward, right? So, first comment, question. Dear Mr. Dichter, so formal. Come on. But thank you. Dear Mr. Dichter, I'm Canadian by birth from Ottawa, with dual U.S. citizenship, currently living in the United States. I've been following the Trucker Convoy news very closely. Thank you for your newsletters. That's the Substack, BJdichter.substack.com. I promise you, you're going to like it. It's going to get spicy moving forward. I'm also very eager to come back to Canada. However, I am unvaxxed, and the current restrictions require 2 weeks of quarantine, make it impossible with my work. I'm really afraid to ask, but I have been unable to find out. Do you know whether the Canadian government followed up their threats to confiscate truckers' pets? Is it something that's been bothering me so much? Also, do you know whether the confiscated trucks were returned to their owners? Were the trucks' bank accounts also unfrozen? It's hard to find any reports on these items. Thank you very so much, Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. You're awesome. You're very sweet for sending that in. So yeah, a couple of things. That's where you saw the real darkness and the cruelty of the Trudeau regime and Canada's bureaucracy. You know, we're all so friendly and nice and whatever, and then they say, yeah, we're going to take your pets and euthanize them, which was one of the threats that they said during the Freedom Convoy, because a whole bunch of people were having a party, and the guys with the hot tub. And you know what's amazing is the cognitive dissonance of some people when they saw the hot tub, and they saw that as a threat. No, that's the opposite of a threat. That's a hot tub and beers. Those guys, I met one of them quickly. They were awesome. That was purely the spirit of it. But people, they see the hot tub, I know a couple of them, lose their shit over the hot tub. What are you doing? Like, is the problem because it's not violent and they think it should be violent, so their brain gets all, rewired incorrectly? And I think that might be what it is. But anyways, so yeah, if you ever want to know how cruel and dark Trudeau, our bureaucracy, the Ottawa police chief, all those people are, remember, they threatened to steal people's pets and euthanize them. That's how desperate they were until somebody, sabotaged the convoy. Well, we're going to get to that over time, I promise you. In terms of the unfrozen bank accounts, yeah, the unfrozen bank accounts were... The frozen bank accounts were frozen in sequence beginning after the Emergency Measures Act was dropped. And in my case, it was the day after the emergency measures was dropped. So I think my account was frozen for 8 days. So for 8 days, the Canadian government was trying to starve me and trying to kill me. So, So that's one thing. And the pets. Oh, and the confiscated trucks. I don't know because I kept getting 20 different scenarios and explanations, and I can't. I do know. I don't know if there's still trucks that are impounded. There might be a few left, but from what I understand, most of them were fined and they got their trucks back, but not with significant financial penalty to the point that it's almost and maybe in some cases bankrupted some people. So again, cruel and unusual punishment being used by the weasel lizard people. We'll call them that, just a joke, in the Canadian government. So yeah, for all those people in Canada who think government's your friend, in Germany in 1930, those people, they were the government. So let's not forget that. Okay. This is a funny comment. I mentioned that in my Substack that Justin Trudeau dressed like a rodeo cowboy when he went to meet with the Indigenous people. And he said, the comment is, please do not demean the rodeo cowboy by saying Trudeau dressed like a rodeo cowboy. A jean jacket and pants does not make you look like a rodeo cowboy. Thanks for all your other information. 100% true. And you know what? Like, the best thing of all of it, like, I was almost in tears when I saw all those people, those ranchers and farmers in Alberta, hop on their horses and ride down to the border. There was, I think, about 300 of them. That was a pivotal moment in Canadian history that needs to be amplified more and more. That was really, really just amazing. It was, I don't know, I think it was an emotional moment. Anyways, Denise, I think the most dangerous person in Canada today is Christina Freeland. Oh yeah, the granddaughter of an actual Nazi. Just so everybody knows, so that's clear. Her grandfather, he volunteered for the Nazis and ran their propaganda paper in the Ukraine, which I think is the organization or the group, Antov something or whatever, that she took a photo with in the Ukraine. So actual Nazi's granddaughter meets with actual Nazis, but the Freedom Convoy are a bunch of Nazis. You know what I think? I think it might have been a setup. Whoever put up there was a Nazi flag at some point for a photo shoot, and I think they might have gotten the Nazi flag from Krista Freeland's office. I bet you she just had it in the cabinet. You know, memories of her grandfather or something. You know, whatever. Hitchhiker. He looked like Brokeback Mountain cowboy. Tell that to his boyfriend, Seamus O'Regan. Oops. Anyways, next. I really don't care about these people. Next. Hi, I want to encourage the Canadian truckers for the courage and love that they showed in the protest. It made a difference in the world. May God bless you. Praying for you, Maria. Maria. Thank you, Maria. That's very sweet of you. And you know, everybody kind of did what I mean when we started. Nobody thought we're doing anything that would be global or change the world. I kind of did because I had a feeling my media strategy would work, and it did. But just because you want to go in that direction doesn't mean you think you'd actually achieve it. So, yes, thank you very much, Maria. I say that because Maria, when she sent the message, has a very Latino last name, and I speak Spanish. It's not because I'm a white supremacist. So everybody calm down. Everybody in the government of Canada, calm down. No soy racista. Hablo en esta lengua. Okay, next. Question number 4. This is an interesting one. In reference to, we did the first press conference, which is myself, Tamara, and Chris Barber. And that's when we excluded the fake news, brought in alternative news, and gave a 2.5 hour long press conference. It wasn't 15 minutes and cut them off as 2.5 hours. And after the press conference, I got a message from Alexandra from Rebel Media. It was either her or Lincoln, one of the two. I think it was her. and they missed the press conference, but she said, would you be willing to do an interview with us? And I said, yeah, sure, come by now. We're still here. We'll go to the same room. I think we were actually still in the same room. So she showed up, and we did an hour-long press conference. And I know Alexander was really excited for it, wanted to translate it, get out to the Quebec audience and all that sort of stuff. And I followed up with her the next day or 2 days. When's the story coming out? When is it coming out? You know, it'd be helpful, whatever. And nothing. She didn't know. I don't know. I submitted it. We'll see. I'm still waiting, whatever. And then it died off because Ezra spiked the story. So why would Ezra do that? Ezra, why would you do that? Why would you have us come and waste an hour of my time to do an interview with you and then spike the story? And what was interesting is about a month ago when Tamara was rearrested, Ezra put a clip of Tamara speaking in her typical, soft messaging. I don't mean soft in a negative way, soft of, warmth and love and peace and whatever. And it was from our interview. You could see my sleeve in the shot. And I think I was going to, I don't know if I did or did not, respond to Ezra and saying, hey, Ezra, where's the rest of that interview? Why'd you spike the story? So the two people who have spiked interviews with me during the Freedom Convoy were Barry Weiss and Ezra Levant. I don't know. So anyways, the comment is, Ezra spiked the story. You really should get the word out on that. I appreciate that so many people see Rebel as one of the few alternatives, but I never liked them. Lauren Southern, when she was there, as well as Ezra himself, report, in quotes, on news by handing you your opinion. That is garbage journalism and way, way worse than journalistic practices of CNN, Fox News, or the CBC, unless they're lying about the facts of the story, of course, which is worse than even Rebel. And that's it. No name attached to it. So thank you very much for that. Listen, no journalism institution or company is ever going to be perfect. I'm now helping with an organization as well in the journalism sphere. As you know, I've been producing podcasts for a few years, so nobody really gets it perfect. And but I would be interested to know what is the reason Ezra and Rebel spiked mine, and it was just me and Tamara in that interview. It was me and her for an hour. I'd like to know, and I think it would be wise of him to come forward sooner rather than later, because things might get interesting. So it would probably benefit him. But yeah, nobody's perfect, and they got a lot of great content. Love David Menzies. He's amazing. I do understand what you're saying about your argument is it's narrative journalism from the right, and yeah, there's something to be said for that. And but I don't wish anybody ill will, and I wish everybody all success. Just keep things honest and tell the truth. And if somebody sabotaged the Freedom Convoy, make sure you're willing to tell the truth on that, right? So a couple of comments, and then we're going to shut it off because I got to be there in 16 minutes. Good morning, BJ. Hey, K9, good to see you. Everyone on Facebook is talking about Marcus Ray. He was in Ottawa in January, February, and thoughts on him. And you're aware of this. Yeah, this Marcus Ray guy didn't surface until March. He is, what do you describe him? He's a volunteer. He's a volunteer for the RCMP. He's one of those kiss asses who wants to play police officer but isn't really one. And I say that because there are some auxiliary who are like that, and there's some who are actually great. I have a very good friend who does auxiliary for Metro in Toronto. And he's just very social, loves to go to events and talk to people. So for him, it's awesome. And he's really good at handling just large crowds of people and de-escalating stuff. So he's ideal for it. But this Marcus Ray guy, that's what his name is now. He's changed his name apparently several times. He's an ex-stripper, and he tells people he's a former RCMP officer. I got news for you. If you were ever a stripper, you were never an RCMP officer. He's a Fed. He's been trying to bait people into joining some sort of protest or something for months. He's got several hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, apparently, which is exactly what happens to, that's how people become informants, is law enforcement leans on you and then says, you know, you have all this debt, but we can help you a little bit, but we need you to do A, B, and C for us. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm told, I think it was Rebel News who brought this up, that Pat King also acted as an informant for the RCMP. So for everybody's, oh, he's such a great guy. Aside from him, you know, regurgitating Mein Kampf and saying stupid things about the Ottawa convoy, he's also helped rat out people to the RCMP, as far as I understand. I might be wrong. If I'm wrong, great. But that's just what Rebel News was communicating. Hitchhiker, dude, I love your avatar of. It's really small. It's either W900 or a Peterbilt, but it's a Packard truck, regardless. Which, by the way, you know, my brother's trying to convince me to ditch the Volvo and get myself into either a Peterbilt or a W900, W900, 990, whatever. But I don't know. I haven't decided. It's kind of like, you know, motorcycles. I always had racing motorcycles, but now as I'm starting to get older, I'm starting to appreciate Harleys. Even when I worked for Harley Davidson, I didn't really like them, but now I'm starting to gain an appreciation, and now I'm starting to, well, you know, maybe I get away from the Volvo truck and go in the Packard direction. For people who don't know trucks, give you your first big lesson about trucking. Partially my opinion, but I don't think most people would dispute this, is you really have two types of trucks. You have like the modern trucks, which is like mine. You see them all over the road. Volvo, I have a Volvo VNL. They're everywhere. There's Volvo, there's Freightliner Cascadias. They're very common, streamlined. They're supposed to be aerodynamic, fuel efficient, and whatever. And then you have like the Optimus Prime, old school, multi-tier bunk in the back. Square, you know, long nose is what the my brother's long W900 is. They're like the old school looking trucks, and it's similar to motorcycles. So like the racing motorcycles would be like the modern version of like my type of truck, more fuel efficient, creature comfort. It's like a home on the inside. But then you have the Packard trucks, which is the Kenworths, and the Peterbilts are more traditional. They're like Harley Davidsons, right? And they're big on the traditional look of what a truck is and all that sort of stuff. So they're trying to push me in that direction. I'm like, I don't know if I'm there yet. Maybe one day, but we'll see. Denise, our American truckers and the Canadian truckers are still working together. I don't know if you mean in protest, or do you mean in terms of working together? I mean, we're all in our trucks. We show up to sites separately, or you go to a truck stop. I don't go to a lot of truck stops, but once in a while when I go someplace long, I'll have a night at one of the places. And I mean, I get along with everybody. So I've had a few people that were problematic, but it's everybody kind of works together. It's not uncommon for American truckers. They must have the most interaction with Canadians than most other industries. Maybe, you know, people in warehousing, and that's about it. We're all talking to each other all the time, and at least in, you know, where I am, the upper right corner of the United States, which is, you know Maine, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, that sort of stuff. So yeah, we're all getting along. In terms of working together, moving forward with the whole freedom movement, I will have more on that in the near future, because in that respect, yes, a lot of us have been talking and continue to talk, and there may be something coming down the pipeline. Not a convoy. All right, so all the brainlet bureaucrats, you can all calm down now. No convoys. There's no convoys coming up anytime soon. So you can all relax, okay? K9, Marcus Ray is selling teas now on his TikTok and still trying to bring the people together. Yeah, he's trying to get people in trouble. The same way Randy Hillier was trying to get people in trouble in Ottawa when he was moving the barricade and telling people, trying to coax them into storming Parliament Hill, which would have quickly gotten people arrested and made things a lot worse. He's doing the same thing. You see a lot of that from the political class. The political class acts with a lot of actors on the ground, a lot of them. And some people just do anything for money. So I'm guessing he's one of them. But Denise says, protesting together. If so, do you have any updates about the American protest? No protests right now, as far as I know, going forward. And but I'm going to be talking to a bunch of them over the next few months, especially as things start to get a little bit spicy here in Canada over the next few months. And we'll see. I don't see any sort of... You're not going to see a convoy the way we saw one in Ottawa for a long time. It doesn't need to happen because it's done its job. Now we're going into this... it's not an inquiry, this commission, which is a whole set of other problems, apparently. But let's, one thing at a time, let's deal with that. Let's keep everybody together. Let's keep everybody positive and focus on protecting our freedoms by being good to one another, even those we disagree with, right? Marcus claimed to step down. I don't believe him. Yeah, he's one of those people who's going to claim to step down one day, and then he'll show up the next day. That's what Pat King did. So when Tamara told Pat King to go home in no uncertain terms to, GTFO, that was, I think, on the Monday or the Tuesday when they left Alberta. She said, get out of here, go home, because he had already caused so much damage. He basically was almost in tears and says, okay, fine, I'm going to leave. Fine, if you don't want me here, I'll leave. I don't have to be here anymore. And they said, fine, go. But then some of the brainlets within the truckers, no, we have to have him. We have to have him. And Tamara said, no, he leaves, he goes, and he left. And then he showed up 5 hours later at the next stop and then kept doing that. So Marcus is going to do the same thing. And it's interesting that the both of them have worked as informants. So maybe there's something there. I'm not sure. And what about the farmers? What doing something together with the farmers? So, yeah, I'm talking to a lot of farmers in Canada. And the issue with farming in Canada is very different than the Netherlands. I have somebody got a call back in the U.S. today about the Dutch farmers and wants to help them and has wanted to help them for a while. We keep going back and forth on how to get involved, because remember, we have this whole thing that's going to occur over this month. Plus, I got a book and a book launch and all that sort of stuff, and how we can help everybody, but also be strategic and close the loops on the issues that we're currently dealing with. It's just, a ton of stuff. So I did an episode, a live stream. I discussed the Canadian farmer issue. We do have some stopgaps, so it's not nearly as bad as in the Netherlands. That doesn't mean they won't try to politicize the institutions even further to weaken those stopgaps, but that's going to take a significant amount of time and a lot of liberals in like rural Saskatchewan, which I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon, but maybe. I did mention it earlier. We will talk about it more, Denise. Thank you. I now have to be at the coffee shop in 6 minutes, so I'm going to be late. I got to run. I love you all. I'll talk to you in the morning. And any questions you have tomorrow, just post them in the chat or whatever. We'll talk about them and we'll go from there. Love